Hello and welcome to Lyra Nara, and today marks the second installment in our series about a healthy liver. And we need to talk about the liver because many people are not aware of its importance. Yes, many of us know that it's responsible for detoxification, but very few know that actually it fulfills over 200 critical functions in our body. And if you haven't watched the first part of this presentation series on the liver, please do it now. I'm going to link it in the description box below. It's about the liver-brain connection and it's very interesting. Today we are going to talk about liver diseases such as hepatitis, cirrhosis, and even cancer, and explain everything there is to know about it. So, without further ado, let's dive right in and learn about liver diseases. The liver not only fulfills over 200 vital functions in our body, but it has also a very unique anatomy and physiology. It's very unusual in that it has a double blood supply, for example. The right and the left hepatic arteries carry oxygenated blood to the liver, and the portal vein carries venous blood from the gastrointestinal tract to the liver. On entering the liver, the blood drains into the so-called hepatic sinusoids, where it is screened by specialized macrophages, also called Kupffer cells, to remove the pathogens that manage to get past the gastrointestinal defenses. And the plasma is then filtered through the endothelial lining of the sinusoids and bathes the so-called hepatocytes. These cells contain a vast number of enzymes that are capable of breaking down and metabolizing most of what has been absorbed. The portal venous blood contains all of the products of digestion that were absorbed from the gastrointestinal tract, so all useful as well as non-useful products are processed in the liver before they are either released back into the hepatic veins, which join the inferior vena cava, just inferior to the diaphragm, or they are stored in the liver for later use. And because of this specific blood circulation of the liver is directly related to your lungs, your brain, as well as to your heart, as the blood flows directly from the portal vein to your heart and the lungs. And this is why the quality of your life depends on liver health and its perfect functionality. Next, we need to understand the crucial role the liver plays in the detoxification process and the whole metabolism of the liver. So, the digested proteins are split into original building blocks by your liver, which are called amino acids, from which thereafter your body builds new own proteins. Like a filter, the liver removes harmful substances, cellular debris, pollutants such as alcohol, nicotine, chemical substances, and drugs from your blood, and these are changed into water-soluble, non-poisonous substances so that the kidneys can then excrete them. The liver is the most important detoxifier of our bodies. If the liver is overwhelmed by the toxins, it becomes swamped, its filtration quality becomes significantly reduced, and as a result the liver swells and finally becomes sick and gets destroyed. Dead blood corpuscles decomposed by the spleen are also transformed by the liver into bile or bilirubin, and they are eliminated together with gallic acid that is produced also by the liver. The bile is supplied to the duodenum for fat and protein digestion, which produces a brown-colored urobilinogen in the intestine, giving your stool the color brown. Disturbances in the bile production will color the stool yellowish or even whitish light gray, and your urine will also become dark brown since the bile is eliminated through your kidneys. Excess of this bile is concentrated and stored in the gallbladder. And if your liver is not working properly, it will become damaged over time, and the result are going to be a bunch of serious conditions. Liver diseases unfortunately stay undetected for a very long time because they are silent, so they don't have any visible symptoms for years. And the first symptoms are related to the liver-brain connection that we've discussed in the first part of this presentation. Again, the link in the description box below for you to this video. So if you feel tired, you have non-specific malaise, confusion, short-term memory loss, mood swings, depressions, those might be symptoms of a diseased liver. Some sick liver specific physical symptoms are increased allergies, skin eruptions and itching, fluid retention in your lower extremities, flu-like mild symptoms, intolerance to alcohol and fatty foods, lymphoid aggregates, bile duct damage, high triglycerides, and obesity. Liver damages also materialize in liver inflammation, scars to your liver, fibrotic cysts, cirrhosis, and finally liver cancer. And these are the result of different factors such as gallstone blockages, a fatty liver, liver parasites, viral infections, and all of these liver conditions lead to acute or chronic liver function impairment. So a toxic liver will manifest in your whole body as malnutrition, lack of vitamins, amino acids, hormonal disturbances, as a lack of energy, brain fog and confusion, lack of memory, as well as digestive issues. Next, let's go over some of the factors that can lead to liver damages. And first up are gallstones. So liver inflammation can occur in an acute or a chronic form when the gall flow is disturbed, blocked, and the gallstones are not eliminated. 20% of the world's population develop liver gallstones in their lives, and there are far more people who have gallstone blockages in the liver than those who have gallstones in the gallbladder. A surgery to remove the gallbladder makes in most cases no sense and has serious health consequences. Gallstones in the liver are the main impediment to acquiring and maintaining a good health, vitality, a balanced mood, as well as harmonious emotional state, and they also slow down, they accelerate the aging process if not taken care of. Most people who have physical complaints show perfectly normal liver enzyme levels despite the liver bile ducts being congested and obstructed by the gallstones. And this makes liver stones mostly undetectable. Standard clinical tests never reveal the occurrence of gallstones in the liver because of the consistency of gallstones. So gallstones are made up of fatty acids and therefore they are not visible, unfortunately, to CTs, X-rays or ultrasound scans. Another damaging factor for your liver are parasites. The liver is very attractive for many types of parasites which either inhabit your organ or they pass through the liver during their normal development stages, or they are carried through the liver which then becomes their permanent habitat, and this all leads to serious health consequences. Malaria parasites, for example, have a short development stage in the hepatocytes, so in your liver, but they do not damage the liver. Leishmania donovani targets the Kupffer cells in the liver, so the liver macrophages complex that is very important for maintaining a healthy immune system, and they cause visceral leishmaniasis or Kala-Azar, which is a serious liver condition. Nematodes, another type of parasites of the Ascaris group, have a special affinity also for the liver. The larvae of the human Ascaris have to pass once through the liver parenchyma during their development. The eggs of the so-called schistosomes are carried via the portal vein into the liver and are trapped there in the tissue. An inflammatory granuloma develops then around them. If the egg load becomes too high, the liver fibrosis finally develops, and this leads to portal hypertension. And while small liver flukes such as clonorchis or opisthorchis living in the bile ducts do little harm to the liver in most cases, the larger liver fluke Fasciola hepatica, which is as big as a thumb, destroys liver tissue during an early migratory phase of several weeks. Larval cestodes of the genus Echinococcus are usually found in the liver as closed cysts. They grow by expansion, which is called E. granulosis, or as more solid structures that grow by infiltration and destruction, which is E. multilocularis. Destruction results also if the entamoeba histolica invades the liver, large areas of necrosis develop and liver abscesses are formed. When it comes to liver diseases and impairments, we need to talk, of course, about hepatitis, a very common problem, and the flaviviruses. Hepatitis, and actually all of the words that you hear that end in titis or itis, they all mean inflammation. So hepatitis is an inflammation of the liver, and liver inflammation can be caused by the before mentioned parasites, but also the gallstones that we talked about, also a fatty liver and viral infections. The mainstream media believes and propagates the idea that hepatitis is caused by hepatic viruses that are being spread by infected blood only. Hepatic viruses, however, are classified as so-called flaviviruses, and the etymology of the word flavus means yellow. So hepatitis literally means a liver inflammation with yellow coloration of your eyes and skin. So a jaundice due to an excess of bile pigments. Viruses, however, are protein fragments. They are unable to live on their own. They need a host. So viruses do not have a nucleus as well as a cellular membrane, so a cell wall. And viruses are DNA fragments originating from microparasites, protozoa, in their proliferation phase and when they penetrate the stem cells. Hepatitis viruses are an evolutionary link between the plants and the animals that share genetic material, which is a typical protozoa characteristic. So hepatitis is a microparasitic disease in a pretty advanced stage, meaning that it's in the stage when the protozoa migrate to the stem cells. The preference of the hepatitis viruses for the liver cells is due to their evolutionary intelligence that targets to destroy the host's defense system. So the liver cells are very nourishing, another reason for flaviviruses to penetrate the liver tissue, and the liver is practically transformed blood, so the largest blood reservoir in the body that contains only 4% less fluid than the blood itself, and therefore it is a preferred environment for those viruses. The liver also contains large colonies of macrophages, 10% of the liver tissue actually, that as we've discussed are called Kupfer cells, and these cells process all toxins as well as foreign particles that are brought to the liver through your bloodstreams. And viruses are too small to be seen and neutralized by those Kupfer cells, unfortunately. Now let's talk about some challenges which we face when we try to address liver conditions. In the US alone, it's estimated that over 5 to 6 million people are infected with viral hepatitis. So this was a number from before 2010. And the incidence of hepatitis in other parts of the globe is even higher than 10% of the total population. Every year, many people, millions, die of liver hepatitis or cirrhosis. More than 10,000 people in the US alone and over 200,000 per year become newly infected. Many of them are actually not even detected because the tests are not being performed on them because they don't see the symptoms yet developing. From 5 to 6 million people that become sick or are sick with hepatitis C, about 1 million have been correctly diagnosed. So it's difficult to diagnose. All organs in the body have also their own biological rhythm, and this you have to pay attention to when you try to detect the liver problems. Liver alternates the production of the bile with the detoxification process, and the bile is needed for correct digestion. Therefore, the maximum bile secretion is at around 9 a.m. and lowest at about 9 p.m. The liver also dedicates its night time to detoxification and to the synthesis of many chemicals such as numerous vitamins and as well as hormones. And this activity peaks at 9 p.m. and is lowest at 9 a.m. And this cycle begins to shift around 3 a.m. and changes again at about 3 p.m. Many people that wake up during the night between 1 and 3 a.m. Therefore feel changes and might have problems with their livers. People waking up during the night who also feel depressed and feel that their mind is racing with all kind of problems. This might also be an indication of liver problems. Liver-caused fatigue produces a terrible sense of lifelessness, a loss of will, which brings an impairment of the ability of forethoughts, and exhaustion can become so overmastering that getting out of bed requires monumental effort. It is very important that medication for liver condition is to be taken during late afternoon and in the evening before going to bed around 9 p.m. This will match your liver's biorhythm and will facilitate a better sleep. It will decrease depression and help the liver manage to get rid of the accumulated toxins. But there are other things that we have to pay attention to when dealing with liver conditions. When damaged, the liver has problems producing the necessary amino acids as well as protein precursors and engage in an efficient protein synthesis. And therefore people who suffer from liver conditions such as hepatitis also often suffer from malnutrition. A sick liver also shows an inability to manage carbohydrate metabolism. So this is the reason for why you are lacking energy and you alternate between hypoglycemia and hyperglycemia. So literally you are running out of gas, so to speak, because your liver cannot produce the energy that your body needs. A sick liver also has problems to deal with lipids, so fats. And as a result of this, serum total cholesterol becomes increased and the triglycerides are high and the liver starts to deposit therefore the fat in the liver, condition that is known as a fatty liver or steatosis. This condition shows many of the same symptoms as hepatitis and in acute cases leads to cirrhosis. If you continue to eat a lot of fat, you will feel a specific kind of nausea known as biliousness, which is a condition that is actually caused by bile excess. The liver synthesizes a lot of enzymes and hormones as well. And other hormones and enzymes are used extensively by the liver to detox the body. One of the most important ones is glutathione that is produced in the mitochondria and normally present in large amounts in your liver, as we've discussed already. Glutathione is the most powerful substance for detox and for maintaining cellular health, with powerful antiviral properties, as recent research has actually proven. Glutathione deficiency allows the unrestrained proliferation of all pathogens. It leads to premature aging, to numerous chronic as well as degenerative conditions, and diminishes the liver's ability to detox. Characteristic symptoms of deficiency in glutathione are a lack of libido, impotence, irregular menses, loss of hair, as well as severe mood swings. Other diseases that can occur from hepatitis are membranoproliferative glomerulonephritis, which is a problem with the kidneys, essential mix globulinemia, porphyria, cutanea tarda, leukocytoclastic vasculitis, focal lymphocytic sialadenitis, Murine corneal ulcers, lichen planus, idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, and rheumatoid arthritis. The most fatal ones are cirrhosis as well as liver cancer. Another fact that is not widely known but we need to be aware of is that hepatitis may lead to liver cirrhosis. Why? Because during chronic hepatitis, the liver cells deteriorate more and more and die through apoptosis or under the attack of lymphocytes, which in their effort to destroy the viruses actually start damaging the liver cells themselves. And during this process, the bile ducts become damaged and scarred. The liver cannot regenerate, nodules and lumps are formed on its surface, and this is a so-called liver fibrosis, which finally becomes a liver cirrhosis if not addressed. Healthy liver cells are also permanently decreasing and become less available to process the blood, and thus the blood from the portal veins starts to back up and creating thereby portal hypertension, fluid retention in the lower limbs, and finally in the peritoneal activity so-called ascites are built, a peritoneal cavity that fills with blood serum or protein. And here the doctors start their so-called tapping to extract those fluids from the ascites, but the more fluid is extracted, the more fluid comes back. And the fluid is a rich protein serum from the blood, and finally the patient becomes therefore starved, so no nutrients or not enough nutrients reach the body cells. The fatal end therefore is death due to malnutrition as well as poisoning. A hepatic liver that is not treated also can cause many damages to other organs, such as the pancreas, the liver's twin organ, so to speak, the lungs due to the toxic blood that comes from the portal vein directly and flows into the lungs, the heart and the brain, and we've talked about this connection already in the previous part of this presentation series about liver health, and therefore it cannot deal with the blood toxicity when it's impaired. The adrenals also become exhausted and they're not getting the biochemical supply necessary for the functions, so also your muscles are becoming weak. So many effects of an unhealthy or impaired liver. Next, we need to talk about one of the worst conditions that can develop in your liver if it's left untreated and impaired, which is hepatocellular carcinoma, also known as liver cancer. And this might be caused not only by the parasites that we've discussed and all the other factors that I've presented to you already, but also by a so-called biological or emotional conflict that is linked to the liver parenchyma carcinoma, which is a so-called starvation conflict. What is a starvation conflict? Well, this can be literally a conflict due to a lack of food, and hence if you're being put on a strict diet or not being allowed to eat your favorite food, colon cancer diagnosis associated with not getting food or wearing a colostomy bag, loss of appetite and excessive vomiting during chemo treatments or unintentional weight loss, this all might trigger so-called starvation conflict. A threat of starvation could also be brought on when one is unexpectedly in a situation of not being able to make ends meet, let's say because of loss of a workplace, pay cuts, loss of a business, bankruptcy, loss of clients, unexpected rent increases, economically devastating divorces, etc., etc. In short, the conflict translates into the distress of running out of resources to feed yourself and the ones that you feel responsible for, such as your family. And multiple liver nodules indicate that the starvation conflict relates to yourself. A single liver nodule is from one that from yourself who suffers the threat of starvation, with or for another person, a family member, a beloved friend, a pet. So 2 nodules develop for 2 people, 3 nodules for 3 people, and so on. A liver abscess is a liver nodule filled with pus, and water retained during the cancer healing phase leads to an enlarged liver or hepatomegaly, often with ascites that are caused by the excess of water in the peritoneum. A large swelling close to the common hepatic duct bears the risk of a mechanical obstruction of the bile duct with symptoms that are characteristic for jaundice. Acute complications arise when the swelling compresses the portal vein, and in this case surgery becomes inevitable. The liver is the only organ that is capable of regenerating itself by producing new liver tissue. However, when the final healing is prolonged by recurrent conflict activation, the ongoing tumor decomposing process leaves caverns in the liver, and liver cysts known as polycystic liver disease develop when those caverns are filled with water due to an active abandonment and existence-threatening conflict. So be careful also and take care of your emotional conflicts. These might also lead to liver damages. Another condition that develops from an impaired liver is bile duct cancer, or can develop, of course. The biological conflict that is linked to the bile ducts is a male territorial anger conflict, so fight in the territory, or a female identity conflict. A territorial conflict relates to anger in the environment and places which one considers his or her domain, literally or figuratively. Typical territorial anger conflicts are disputes at home, fights at a workplace, anger at school, in kindergarten, a playground, in a senior nursing home, or in a hospital. Also in your extended territory, so to speak, such as your village, your town, or the country where you live. Battles over land or property, annoying noise from your neighbors, fight over parking space or over toy are all examples of what can provoke a so-called territorial anger conflict. Bile duct cancer manifests with cell loss, an ulceration in the lining of the bile ducts, which is proportional to the degree and the duration of those conflicts. The biological purpose of the cell loss is to widen the ducts to enhance the flow of bile to the intestine for better digestion, and this in turn improves the metabolism that provides you as an individual with more energy to resolve this conflict. Depending on the intensity of the territorial anger conflict, the ulceration affects one or several ducts, and the symptoms range from mild to severe pain in the liver region. During the first part of the healing phase, the tissue loss is replenished through cell proliferation, and in conventional medicine this is usually diagnosed as so-called liver cancer. The new cells cannot be regarded as cancer cells, though, since these cells are a replenishing process of the lost cells. So his healing symptoms are therefore swelling due to edema, so the fluid accumulation, as well as abdominal pain, which could last throughout the entire healing phase. In this case, the plan is not of a sensory nature, but a pressure pain. We also need to talk about the connection between bile duct cancer and hepatitis. Large swelling in the common bile ducts blocks the bile flow and therefore results in jaundice. Jaundice shows up as yellow skin and yellow sclera. Also the urine becomes brown and the stool light yellow due to the lack of bilirubin. Hepatitis occurs when healing of the ulceration in the bile ducts is accompanied by an inflammation. Acute hepatitis indicates that a bile duct-related conflict is reactivated through setting on tracks established when the original territorial anger conflict took place. Chronic hepatitis, on the other side, reveals a hanging healing due to a permanent conflict relapse that delays the completion of the healing phase. Icteric hepatitis with the typical symptoms of jaundice develops when a bile duct occlusion involves several ducts or the common hepatic duct. And conventional medicine says that hepatitis is caused by hepatitis viruses, whether they are A, B, C, D, or E. However, as demonstrated in the publication Virus Mania by Thorsten Engelbrecht and Klaus Köhnlein, certainly nobody has yet managed to detect the corresponding virus structure in the blood serum of hepatitis C patients. As with HIV, the virus purification necessary for a clear identification has not taken place. End of quote by those authors. In short, none of the alleged hepatitis viruses, or any virus for that matter, has ever been scientifically proven in hepatitis patients. or demonstrated, to be more precise. With hepatitis, the level of gamma GT, a significant liver enzyme parameter, rises with an acute sharp pain and cramps or spasms, which is also called a liver colic. And in the final healing phase, the bile ducts open up and the function of the organ returns to normal. Everything goes according to plan. Hepatitis concomitant with water retention due to another active abandonment and existence conflict involving the kidney collecting tubules causes an enlargement of the liver, which is also called a hepatomegaly, with acute pain. And excessive water retention could create a critical situation, since the additional water is also stored in the brain edema that develops parallel to the edema on the healing organ. And because of the strong brain pressure, a person might even fall into a coma, which is called a hepatic coma, and die. Next, the connection between bile duct cancer and cirrhosis or cirrhosis. Liver cirrhosis is the consequence of a constant relapse of territorial anger conflicts as a result of the recurring repair processes in the bile ducts. The squamous epithelial lining is gradually replaced by scar tissue, and over time this severely compromises the function of the liver's. Hence, without addressing the underlying conflict, the condition might become fatal, which is a 50% chance of being so due to the lack of psychosomatic care. So again, we not only have to take care of the infections with parasites, gallstones, etc., but also to our psychosomatic balance, because this can also lead to serious liver problems. About 50% of the patients with liver cirrhosis also develop an ascites, so a water belly. According to conventional medicine, the fluid in the abdomen is caused by high blood pressure in the portal vein of the liver. If this theory is valid, however, why does cirrhotic ascites, why do they not occur in 100% of the cases? Based on the knowledge of GNM, the water retained in the abdominal cavity indicates that the person is still experiencing territorial anger, abandonment, and existence conflicts at the same time. And GNM, by the way, is German natural medicine. An existence of conflict could also be caused by the diagnosis shock, since the liver cirrhosis has generally a poor prognosis. Liver cirrhosis has nothing to do with alcohol consumption, just as there is no correlation between smoking and the development of lung cancer, by the way. There are people who have liver cirrhosis who don't drink and have never drunk. They were never alcoholics, and on the other hand, they develop liver cirrhosis, and on the other hand, alcoholics who never do so, just as with smokers. But territorial anger conflicts and drinking often go together. Liver cancer does not come from alcohol, but alcohol and cancer come from sorrow and misery. Alright, and with all that being said, I know it's a lot of information, so let's try to sum it up for you. First up, you have to remember that your liver is one of the most important organs in your body. It fulfills over 200 vital functions, the most important ones being detoxification of your blood and organs, but also synthesis of many nutrients and vitamins, digestion of fat and proteins, as well as securing the energy metabolism based on glucose and produce the bile fluid. Secondly, the liver has a very special anatomic physiologic profile. The right and the left hepatic arteries carry oxygenated blood to the liver, and the portal vein carries venous blood from the gastrointestinal tract to the liver, as we've discussed. And the portal venous blood contains all of the products of digestion that are absorbed from the GI tract. So all useful as well as non-useful, toxic products are processed in your liver. The blood is as clean as the liver delivers the blood to all of the other organs. Therefore, the liver is also closely related to your lungs, your brain, your heart, as well as your large intestine, as it has a direct blood connection with those organs. Liver diseases, unfortunately, for a long time can remain undetected or remain silent, so to speak, without visible symptoms. The first symptoms are related to the liver-brain connection that we've discussed in a previous presentation. Some other sick liver symptoms are increased allergies, skin eruptions and itching, fluid retention in your lower extremities, flu-like mild symptoms, intolerance to alcohol and fatty foods, lymphoid aggregates, steatosis, bile ducts damage, high dry glycerides, as well as obesity. So be on the watch out for those. Chronic liver damages materialize in liver inflammation, also called hepatitis, but also liver scars, fibrotic cysts, liver cirrhosis, and finally liver cancer. And all of these conditions are the results of different factors such as gallstone blockages, liver parasites, microparasitic and viral infections, but also another major trigger, which are so-called psychosomatic triggers, emotional conflicts that are not resolved. Liver hepatocellular carcinoma, so tumor growth, is caused by a starvation conflict, for example, in real terms due to the lack of food, or figuratively when you're running out of resources to feed yourself and the ones you're feeling responsible for, so it's an existence threat. Bile ducts cancer, so the bile ducts in the liver itself or in the gallbladder come from a male territorial anger conflict, so a fight in your territory, or a female identity conflict. A territorial conflict relates to anger in the environment and places which you consider your domain, literally or figuratively, so disputes at home, fights at the workplace, etc. And the kind of cancer, this kind of cancer manifests with ulceration in the bile ducts, so cell loss, which after conflict resolution become replenished again. So when a life-threatening conflict related to the kidney ducts is involved, bile ducts cancer leads to liver cirrhosis, liver hepatitis, as well as liver ascites, and usually becomes fatal. So take care not only of the parasites, the viral infections or the gallstone blockages, but also of your emotional well-being. As always, you need to address everything holistically and look at the whole picture in order to remain healthy. And with all that being said, I hope that you've enjoyed this presentation. If you did so, please support our work by subscribing, liking, and sharing with your friends. We're gonna come out soon with the third part of this liver series, where we're gonna talk about natural treatment methods and natural prevention methods that are side effect free, so that you can remain healthy. And in this sense, stay healthy until next time.